And I'm going to start by showing you a sample report. You can see my screen okay, hopefully. And I think this will be helpful. And as we go through the program, you can kind of see what the end product is first, and then you can see how the different parts of the program relate to this report. So these, you'll be able to add a company logo to your account. So on all your reports, if you want that company logo to show, it'll be up here in the upper left. Your header information is something you can customize in the program. And what we're looking at here is a report for a single family home. And so you can see up at the top, you've got your owner information, property address, and then we get into the single family home valuation. Some of our customers have told us that they only want to use the program for agricultural buildings. And if that's the case, you're able to hide everything from basically from this line down to the bottom of the page here.
Yeah, that would be us. We don't need the dwelling.
Okay. So this section is for the main dwelling. And even if you're not using the program for a main dwelling, you'll always start out evaluation by starting with a single family or some structure, and then there's an option to hide that on the report, settings. So that whole section all the way down to here is for the main dwelling in the report. And you can add photos, of course. And then there's a section in the program for, it's labeled other structures. And if you're only using it for agricultural buildings, that's where you're going to start adding those other structures, and they're demonstrated, or they're displayed just like you see them here on this report. With each structure having a section and the total replacement cost, insurance to value if you enter an insured amount, a table that shows you how much insurance is needed based on the percentage of the replacement cost, and then you can add photos for every structure. So this report has 2 additional structures. And since you're not going to use the single family dwelling, I can kind of skip through that section of the demonstration. But regardless of what you're going to do, once you log into the program, this is the screen that you see when you start. Once you've logged in, this is the start screen. First thing you do is you're going to enter a valuation name, and this is generally something that you might use to help you identify the valuation later. You can use the name of the person, the address, perhaps the year or the date. So we often would demonstrate putting something like Smith, say 5 Main Street. Say Plummer. And so underneath that valuation name box, you've got all the different building types that are available within the program. And by default, the single family residence is chosen. You can see here that you do have agricultural building types available to use as the main structure on the report. But if you want them formatted as you see on this page, you're going to want to pick a single family dwelling. You can see the format's slightly different for the main dwelling compared to the other structures. So you're going to want to start with that. Go ahead and start with a single family residence or some other structure, and then hide that later. So
okay, so
we'll do that.
Question: we pick single family.
Okay.
Can we add a picture but not go through the whole valuation?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can. And we can do the demonstration that way. So from here, I'm going to click Begin Valuation. And so once you go in, we're starting the process of doing the single family residence valuation. And we also, one of the things that you're going to want to fill out in this main structure is the owner and address. because that's going to be used in the header of the report. And to navigate through the program, you're going to see there's a next button up here, and then there's a list of menu items that have different categories, things like the owner and address, general information, so on. You can navigate by either clicking this button or clicking on the menu item. We're going to click next here, and then we're going to enter some owner information. Guess I should make that match. Valuation, and I'll go ahead and enter 5 Main Street. Minnesota. And what's the zip for?
What
You
is
guys
it?
know?
567. I don't know.
I got it.
56742.
So you can enter that zip, and you can also enter a phone number. And you can also enter the policy number here. That'll show up on the report. And then if the property address is the same as the owner, you can click this button and that'll automatically fill. And this zip code under the property address is going to be used as a regional cost adjustment in the program. So from there, I'm going to click next, and you'll see on the left here, it just steps down to the next item. And I'm going to go ahead and skip down, since we're not really creating that valuation. I'm going to skip down to regional cost adjustment just so you can see that the program has identified that there's a negative 2.3% adjustment rate for this zip code. And so from there, we'll skip right down to photos, and we'll add a photo. So click select here, and you can select multiple photos if you want. I only have one house. I'll do the house and the garage. So I'm going to select 2 photos and then click. And I just held down my control key on my keyboard and I clicked on each. Now click open, and then you can see those being uploaded. And right now that little circle is yellow. Once it's uploaded, it'll turn green. And after I see both of those turn green, I'll click Save Selected Photos. And then those 2 photos are uploaded to the cloud for this evaluation.
Okay.
You can also, from here, with either one of these selected, you can click Edit Info, and you can enter some additional information if you'd like. And this will show up on the report as well. And you'll notice here that there's a checkbox under this column print. If you don't want both of these printed, you can uncheck those boxes. You can also delete photos after you've added them here if you decide, if you upload a wrong photo by mistake. If you want to delete all the photos, you can click this checkbox at the top and it'll select all the ones. Hopefully all of that's fairly intuitive. From there, we're going to go to the report page. And as I had said before, if you don't want to see all that information for the main building, there's a setting, and this is it. We'll check off hide valuation for main building. And you can also see that on this page, you've got a place to enter an inspector name and an inspector phone. And that's going to be the information in your user account by default. And you can also change the name that's seen on the report at the top of the report, and that's in this section right here.
Oh, okay.
So if we want to change that name, we type anything we want there. You can enter comments that'll show up on the report, and that's going to be under the main dwelling. These are comments for the main dwelling. You can also optionally include a cover sheet in the report and have comments for that. From there, we're just going to save these settings, though, and then we're going to go over here in the menu on the left and click Other Structures, and we'll add a couple of agricultural buildings.
Okay.
So, and on this page is where you're going to add all of those additional structures. And it's kind of the same as the start page. We start out by just entering a name for the structure, and then scroll through the different structure types. As you click on these, you'll see a description down here at the bottom of each structure type. Let's add a machine shed for this example. I'll click OK, and now we're starting the valuation for the machine shed, and it looks very similar to the other page, but you see an additional button here now that says Return to Main Structure. If we click that, it'll take us back to this other structures page, and you can see that we're back in the main dwelling in this valuation. And we have that new building added into the table here with the list of other structures. To get back into that, since we left before we finished, we're going to click the pencil button and edit that. And it takes us right back in where we can finish what we started. So now we're going to get into the details of generating a replacement cost. You can see up here in the upper left that all the values are 0 right now because we haven't entered in any information. And then in the menu of the different categories of information we can add, next to each one there's a blue or an amber house icon. And there's a legend here at the bottom that says the amber is equal to required fields not completed. So anything that has an amber or yellow house icon is required information. Until you complete the information on those pages, you won't see a replacement cost calculation. And for every building type, the general information page is a required field. We'll go to that one next, and we'll enter an insured amount, and the insured amount is used solely for the report purposes. If you enter an insured amount for any structure, you're going to see it displayed here, and then you'll see a percentage calculated from that insured amount, based on the replacement cost calculation. And this page is going to be different for every building type. So it's going to look a little different for a grain bin. It's going to look a little different for a shop and machine shed. But pretty much every general information page is going to also have a section of required values and a section of optional values. So these fields at the top in the required section are all that are needed to see a replacement cost calculated. And for this one, we're going to enter in the total square feet. You can also choose optionally to enter length and width instead. And then select the style of the shed. You can leave that as the default if you'd like, or you can choose all sides or one side open and the other two. Go ahead and leave that all sides closed. And then you can edit the sidewall height. By default, the machine sheds have a sidewall height of 10 feet. And you can also set, I skipped the class, back up to the top. If you want to set a class that will be used on the report, you can set that here as well. And you'll see that on the report in this section. So from there, I'm going to hit next, and it's going to step down to the classification page. On the classification page, you'll see a list of the different aspects, the different categories of the building structure, and you're going to have to set a classification for each one of these. You can do that by clicking the drop down on each item, And as you do that, you'll notice that the description changes. You can also click one of these buttons at the bottom, and it'll set all of the boxes at once. And you can see, I'll kind of spend a little bit of time on these classifications, because for the building types that have a classification screen, it's a pretty important part of the calculation process. So with a low classification on electrical, the description says none. If we change that to good, that'll change to a description of 4 outlets per 1,000 square feet. So you want to go through each one of these classification items and match it to the building that you're creating the valuation for. And once you've done that, if we step to the next page by clicking next, or if we just click on classification again to refresh the screen, you'll see that a replacement cost is calculated. And from here, I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at this report. So I click View Report in the menu at the top there, and a PDF report is created. So you can see the header information that we entered at the top, those 2 photos for the main dwelling that we entered, and then here's the information on our machine shed. So we had a replacement cost here. I entered an insured amount that was way too high. And you'll notice that over here with the Class G1, the 90% insurance line is highlighted, or it's bold and underlined. So that's based on the G1 class.
Bill, well, does that come at 80% too? Because one company that we write with requires 90, one requires 80.
That's the first time I've heard that from anyone in Minnesota. So that's something that we could change in this table. Right now we have these set percentages of 10, 25, 50, 90, and 100. But I'll make a note of that. We can make that a feature. One thing I didn't do is I didn't add photos for the machine shed. So let's go back and do that. We're still under the machine shed. For every additional structure that you add, you can also, you'll find the photos menu item for each structure as well. So this works just like it did for the main structure. You go out, navigate the folder on your computer, wait till the circle to turn green, click save selected photo. Now if we view that report, we'll have a photo under the machine shed section.
And I missed it. Was there a place for notes too for the machine shed? Like the dwelling?
Yes. Yes. If we return to main structure here, we check this box next to machine shed and hit edit details.
Okay.
There's a place to enter comments just for the machine shed.
Okay.
So you type something in there, save changes, click view report. And they show up here underneath.
Okay.
Machine shed. And so you can add as many structures as you want here. We could go in and add a grain bin. And you see there's quite a bit of difference. There's only one required menu item for grain bin. We can enter total bushels or diameter and height. There's an option. You can use some of these optional values if you want to include a concrete slab. We can say yes here. Bottom cone. That's all the required information for a grain bin. So if we refresh that page, that value is going to be calculated. Under the next category, grain bin details, you can also add things like a serrator, dryer, air fan, augers, pneumatic air system. You can add a grain leg to the same structure if you'd like for that to be included in your grain bin. The regional cost adjustment that we entered initially, that's going to be carried over for each of your other structures. And now, since this doesn't have many categories, I'll just go ahead and go through the rest of these categories. There's a total page that allows you to customize or manually adjust the cost per bushel if you'd like to do that. Every page has an additional item menu. The additional items let you enter pretty much anything that you'd like to include in your valuation, and it'll be added on separate, or it'll be added on to the price replacement cost. So if you had a custom item here, I can't think of the thing. So you want to put a grain leg on the additional item as opposed to under the grain section. You type in, fill in those 4 fields and hit add cost, and that item will show up. So I click, I'm going to click view report. So let's take a look at that. And now we've got the machine shed photo, and then we've got the grain bin. And you can see this additional cost of $50,000 added on here. Our replacement cost is calculated, insured amount. So I'm going to go back to the main structure, and I want to show you the report page now. On the report page, there's a couple of options. You've probably noticed on these reports. Well, actually, there's an option. I don't know if you've noticed in the menu, there's a depreciation item for most every building. If you want to enter depreciation and have an actual cash value calculated, you'll want to go to this report page and check off that box, show depreciation and ACV. And then from here, you can either hit generate report or save settings. We don't have depreciation entered for any of the items. So I'm just going to hit save settings, and then I'm going to go back into our other structures, go back into this machine shed, go to the depreciation page, and I'm going to enter a depreciation percentage here and allow that to recalculate. And if I refresh by clicking on a menu item, you can see the depreciation is calculated.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ACV is displayed. And now it'll also be displayed on there. Oh, there we go. It didn't save that setting first
Oh, there it
time.
is.
So now we've got depreciation and ACV.
Mhm.
One other thing, do you have any questions at this point?
No.
One other thing I want to show you now is the open menu item. If you click open, you're going to see a list of all the valuations that you've created in your account. So you can revisit those, 3 years. And then on this page, you can search. So we named the one, here's the one we just did. It's at the top. We search for Smith, it'll narrow that list down to only the valuations have Smith. So that's a page you're going to probably come back to occasionally. You can also on this page edit the name of a valuation. So if you decide you don't like, the name that you created there, we can, you click the checkbox and edit valuation, and you're allowed to make a change here. Maybe we wanted to put the year in as well. And then from that screen,
right?
I'm sorry?
They stay forever. So like if we do an inspection today, we do an inspection 2 years from now, we can just go in there, change the pictures, change dimensions of a building that's already in there, whatever's changed. Don't have to start over, is what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. 2 years from now, we could come in here and we could search for that valuation and just click on the name of the valuation just like that. And we're back where we started, or back where we left off 2 years prior.
Okay.
Go in, update photos, whatever you need to do. Go to the other structures page, add additional structures if you need to. One thing to remember, once you open evaluation, if you did that 2 years later, we're going to be publishing updates throughout that period. So once you open that valuation and you start navigating, the replacement cost is going to be recalculated.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to uncheck this hide valuation for main building and click generate report. And you can see the difference in what that's going to look like if you don't check off that box. So now you have all this, you have the structure information and the information for that main building. So if you ever see a report like that and you're not using it for other structures, just want to go check that box. There's also an item here, or a checkbox to hide all photos. If you don't, say if you have 20 photos for a building and you don't want to go and change the setting for each individual photo, you can check off hide all photos and it'll hide all the photos. There's also a report if you only want the photos to be displayed. You can click this generate photo sheet and a report will be produced that contains only the photos. If you want to email the report to someone, the main report, there's an email report button. Click email report. You enter an email address, and you can change the subject line and body. Click send valuation, and that email. The cover sheet is another option. Let's take a look at that. you can have custom comments for your cover sheet as well. So if we have that box checked, click generate report. The first page of the report is going to be a cover sheet.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty much PowerITV in a nutshell. Every building type is going to have different things, like, you know, a single family dwelling. There's a lot of different categories of things you can add to that valuation, and hopefully they're all pretty intuitive. Like for a single family, you can enter attic space, balconies and basements, heating and cooling, and all that kind of stuff. Extra appliances. One other thing, you can change the order of other structures. The order that they're listed in this table is the order that they're going to appear in the report. And you can change the order by just clicking and dragging and dropping those items. You can also make copies of structures here. So if we click the checkbox and hit copy selected, it's going to ask you, do you want to create a copy? And we'll say yes. And it creates a copy. So if you have a lot of structures that are very similar, that's a quick way to duplicate them and then go into each one and make some minor changes.
Oh, like grain bins.
If we don't, yeah. And if you don't like the name of that, again, we'll click that checkbox and hit edit details. And we can change the name here. If we want to call that machine shed 2. You can also create groups. So maybe we want to have a group of machine sheds.
Okay.
And you can optionally enter a class for the group, and you can optionally enter a group insured amount. If you don't enter a group insured amount, the report will calculate one for you by adding all the insured values together.
Okay.
So we hit save changes here, and now we have a group called machine shed group, and underneath it says there are no structures in this group. It added the group to the bottom. What we're going to do is just drag these 2 machine sheds into the group. And so now they're underneath this group. You can collapse and expand that group. And now if we click view report, you'll see that these 2 machine sheds are within the machine shed group. And then you've got a summary for the group down at the bottom. We have a group total replacement cost. The insured amount was calculated by summing the 2. And insurance value is cut. And you can also delete these items easily. It's going to warn you. It's going to ask you, are you sure? Because once you delete one of these structures, it can't be brought back. I think that for the most part, that's everything. There is an admin page that you're going to use if you want to change the information in the header at the top of the reports. That's where you're going to do that.
Mhm.
There are different types of users within PowerITV. When we set you up, we can set you up as a company admin. We can set you up as a manager. We can set you up as a user. So we've got three types. A user is only going to be able to see their valuations, and they're not going to have access to the managed users or the company info page. Managers and company admins can change this information, and if they go to the open page, they're going to see everybody's valuations. And I think the last thing that I wanted to show you is the help system. If you click help, a new tab will be opened in your browser, and there's information on each page within the system. We've been adding a lot of features lately. The help is a little bit behind some of the new features. So you may find a few things. We're getting the feedback starting to slow down, but we've had a fair amount of feedback since the beginning of the year, and we're constantly adding new features. And we just did a price update last week, so we were kind of focused on that for a while. But we also added 8 or 10 new features at the same time as that price update.
So somebody told me that this save template feature is something they use.
Okay.
They're talking about, but
yeah, you just click save template if you want to save a valuation as a template and enter a name for it.
so for instance, let's just say that we have a lot of 40 by 60 pole sheds. Is that where you could save that? Or is that not, did I misunderstand them completely?
Yeah, 60 pole shed. Yeah, you could create, we could add, you could create in this valuation that we've created, you would want to add your pole shed under other structures.
Well, let's just use the machine shed, for example. Let's just say we have a boatload of those.
And honestly, I haven't looked at this in quite a while. I'm not sure what we're going to see on that. Yeah, I didn't think that was that's only going to bring in the information on the main structure. So you could start a new structure. You could start a new structure as a, what type did you say that?
Oh, let's just go, since we're here, let's just do grain bins. Let's take a 10,000 bushel grain bin with nothing added, no added features, just because.
It would have to be, after seeing what that, I hadn't looked at that template page for a while. It's only going to resave the main dwelling on the report. So you would have to start it out as a new valuation as a main dwelling, or the main structure on the report. We'd have to enter grain bin 1 here. But when we do that, that's going to end up creating a valuation that's formatted like this. Whatever the main structure on the report is formatted slightly different. And and what I mean by that is you'll notice that there's no class here. And the percentages are different. You do have on the main dwelling the 80%, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I think the only thing that's really missing, you have more information. All of the detail and the base valuation information is split out into the categories. So that's one thing that's different. And then the class is not showing up. Doesn't show up. There's no place to go. So if we continue going, doing what we were just doing, click begin valuation there. And save that. We go to new and click create template. There's our green bin template.
Okay.
Just type in the name, with that highlighted, we'll put begin valuation. And it creates that same. But it's only gonna keep the main structure.
Oh, okay.
As we saw with the machine shed. When we picked the single family template that I'd saved, those other structures carried over. That's something that we need to revisit and fix. Again, that nobody's asked for in the last 6 months.
And I don't know, I was just thinking that, I mean, when I first was playing with this, it seemed like a lot of steps to get to the final product. But now that I see what you're doing, no, you don't have to go through every single solitary step. I mean, I was hitting next, and I don't need to do that.
Yeah, you
jump down. So it's probably not even important, this template thing, because I was wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's using it. We've had a program that calculate replacement cost on the market for about, I think, since 2008 actually, and we called it PowerClaim RCC. And we started PowerITV from RCC, and we've made an enormous amount of changes since the last fall, based on feedback from you guys in Minnesota. We made it to, made the reports to look like you guys need, and we've added a lot of new features. We've added new structure types, the grain bin, things like that. And so this template is something that was kind of left over from that old program that we really haven't done anything with since we turned RCC into PowerITV, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and it was actually somebody at your office that I was talking to about it. I don't know. The person gave me the password for the trial, and yeah, I don't even know how we got on it, but anyways, that's okay.
Yeah.
I see.
And
now.
we'll add that to our change, feature change request list, which we work on constantly, because that won't be a huge task to copy other structures, save other structures in the template as well as the main structure. We just haven't gotten to that yet. No one's noticed it, I don't think. Do you have any other questions, or do you want to go through any other examples?
Chad, do you?
I don't have any questions.
Do you, now Chad hasn't had a trial to play with this at all. I've just been doing that on my own, but do you see it's kind of what we're doing now, just a little bit different, I guess I don't have any questions either. Just I mean, we go in here, we go to new if it's a new person, which of course everybody's going to be new for a while. And then we go to open if it's already in there. And let's say that we go in there to our saved one and it's Mr. Smith and he put a 60 by 40 addition on that machine shed that we did. We can just go in and add that to that building.
Right, we'd click other structures.
Yep.
Edit machine shed. Go down to building addition. Add a name. Just fill in the information about that addition. Unfinished area. With all sides open, it's only going to show unfinished area. We want to have all sides closed. All the options change. So yeah, you just
Put in the amount or whatever, the square foot. Okay.
enter the finished area, the unfinished area, and the concrete floor area. And you can leave any or all of those blank, and you'll see, you know, the different calculation. Change the roof cover type, electrical. Once you've entered all that, just click Add New and refresh by clicking on anything on the left side, and yeah, we've got a new building addition.
Okay.
And if we click, let's go to the report and see what that looks like. So that shows up under additional costs. There's our lean-to added on to the base cost.
Okay. And then the square footage was, oh yeah, we put five. Yeah, so the square footage was added to that building. So it was 5,000 square feet total now. Okay. Yeah, I don't have questions. I think it's easy to use and it is straightforward. And the help and everything. So I think now that I found out that you don't have to hit next to get to the bottom. And also I didn't realize how we got, when I was playing with it today, I was putting in a steel machine shed and how I changed the roof cover and the exterior to steel. But it's with that good, best, or whatever it is.
Oh, on the classification screen.
Yep. That's where you do that.
Good average. So when we change that to average, if it's a standard gauge corrugated iron, side. Low goes to light aluminum. Yeah, any page that any building type that has a classification, you need to read those descriptions pretty closely because a lot of the value comes out of those classifications.